Melissa, you just moved to the island recently. How long did it take you to find a place?
So I started in October. I got to the island and found a realtor. Then it was another week before I found a place. So 4 months in total.
Finding a place to rent in Bermuda has never been tougher. So in this video, I'll be talking about why the rental market is so difficult right now and what you can do about it. Let's go. Whether you're a local Bermudian that was born and raised on the island, or you just moved here recently, if you've tried finding a place to rent, you know how tough it is right now. And if you don't have the luxury of being a hotshot underwriter with a housing allowance, then it's even harder. But why is it so hard to find a place to rent in Bermuda? Well, it's a complex topic and there's no simple answer. A lot of people think that, it's a small island with limited supply of land and houses, which means a tough rental market, and that's partially true. But let's start this off by saying that the housing crisis is a relatively recent phenomenon. Bermuda's last census was in 2016, so we don't have a super accurate population count right now. But most estimates say that Bermuda's population peaked in 2015 and has been slowly declining ever since. The reason I'm bringing that up is because, if there's less people on the island right now, then why has it become so much harder to find a place? Let's look into it. But before I start, let me put a disclaimer out there. I am not an economist or an expert in real estate or anything whatsoever. I'm just a guy with an opinion who did a little research, so don't take this as anything official. Let's just have a discussion. And let's start this discussion by looking at what I consider the major causes of the housing issues in Bermuda. So these are going to be in order from what I consider the least impactful to the most impactful. And first up, we have low turnover. In tight markets, you'll see tenants tend to stay in place longer, especially if they have a favorable lease. This results in fewer listings becoming available at any given time. And like in most first world countries, Bermuda's birth rate has tanked. Like I was talking about earlier, the whole population is going down. So there aren't as many families coming up these days, which would normally, have kids, graduate to family homes, but they aren't having kids. They're staying in place longer, which means there's less smaller one-bedroom and studio style apartments available. Next is high demand from expats and professionals. So Bermuda has this grand plan to increase the working population by 8,000 people. And as I've mentioned twice already, that's not coming from inside the house. We're gonna have to bring in 8,000 foreign workers and expatriates. And they've started on this already. They've started to streamline the immigration process and encourage people to bring in more workers. And their goal is to increase the working population by 8,000 people. Now, obviously, that's going to put a strain on the housing market, and we're already seeing that. And then you have landlords with an expat preference, really. And if you're local, you know that it's a bit of a contentious topic right now. But I'm just saying what it is. You have a lot of landlords that prefer someone that they know is going to have an end date. They might only be here on a 1 or 2 year contract, so you don't have to worry about evicting them if things go wrong. And a lot of expats, they get housing allowances. They're making a lot of money. They're more reliable with the payments. So you have a lot of landlords that are leaning in that direction when they're looking for tenants. Next up is the cost. And when I say cost, it's a general term, meaning the cost of renting a place, the cost of building a accommodation, the cost of maintaining it, the cost of buying one. Everything is just more expensive these days. What you see on a lot of these Bermudian discussion groups is landlords pointing fingers at tenants pointing fingers at landlords, and saying, it doesn't need to be that expensive. And then the landlords are saying, well, everything's more expensive. And it's true. And it doesn't really help anybody. Like, everyone's struggling because, interest rates are up. The cost of buying materials is up. You want to refurbish a place and make it sparkly clean and nice and modern. It's expensive. And in a lot of ways, it's not worth it because, people think that you're charging all these exorbitant or what they consider exorbitant prices, but really it's just the cost of doing business these days. Now, you do have the odd case of landlord that's just putting the price as high as they can because people are offering that, but in most cases, it's just the cost of doing business. You know, it doesn't make sense to charge $1,500 for a place if, you know, it's costing you over $2,000 to maintain it. So the price has to be above $2,000 for it to make any sense. If not, it doesn't make sense having the place on the market. It's just going to cost you money. And the final point I want to touch on are the courts. Now, this is a big topic, and maybe one day in the future I'll make a dedicated video about it. But for now, I'm just going to touch on a few things that revolve around the fact that the current rules and legislation around the way that tenants and landlords interact with each other is woefully inadequate.
We've been hinted at amendments to the Landlord Tenant Act since 2022 throne speech. So where is it?
It's coming. This year it'll come.
It will come. We will get those amendments.
You will get them.
And in some cases, it's adequate, but it's not being enforced. For example, there's a set of rules that cover rent control. That's for dwellings that have an annual rental value of under $22,800. There's a bunch of rules around that landlords should be following, but a lot of them aren't. And on the flip side, there's a lot of landlords right now complaining that when they do have issues with tenants and they're taking them to court, the court cases are just not being handled adequately enough. And in many cases, they're just too favorable towards tenants, which is putting things out of balance and causing a lot of landlords to either become very fearful and very careful about who they rent their places to, or get out of the market entirely.
So you don't seem to have a shortage of people looking for affordable housing, but you do seem to have a shortage of landlords willing to rent to that market. Isn't one of your biggest tasks making renting more attractive to landlords?
More attractive to landlords? Yeah.
Like one example is I have a friend who had a tenant that stopped paying the rent for an entire year. It took the landlord a year to get the tenant out of the house. And in addition to legal fees and that whole year worth of lost revenue, you know, the money that the tenant did owe, they only had to pay back, or the court ordered that they only pay back $100 a month, which means that she's not going to get her money back for many years. You know, it's ridiculous. And that's not a rare case. That happens all the time. And on top of that, you have a big problem in the courts right now, ever since COVID, is delays in a lot of cases, especially probate cases. You have people whose properties are caught up in legal disputes, people that died without leaving any instructions or a will for the properties, so it gets caught up in these protracted legal cases, and then the properties either become abandoned or they're in such a poor state that it requires six-figure repairs in order to become usable again.
Is there a real risk that some people, if they've allowed properties to go derelict, could end up losing those properties? What's going to happen?
I know that there was a meeting held this morning with several of the stakeholders within government. I certainly don't want to preempt what those final decisions will look like, Gary, but you and I both know, the people of the country know, there are many homes around the island, whether it's through family disputes or whether it's in probate for years and years, sometimes that happens, or of homes that have just been left behind for someone that has passed and they've left it to no one. Those three examples are some of the things that we have to really delve into, and then have consultation, and there will be consultation, public consultation as well, because I think the public feedback is going to be important as we go forward.
Melissa, now that you've found a place, what advice would you give to someone that's about to move to the island and they're in your position?
If I could offer some advice, it would be start your search straight away. I know of 4 Facebook groups that offer apartments or properties. I would ask your coworkers or people that you meet if they know anybody looking or leaving the island. Also, I would reach out to a realtor. I know in my case, I have to give 3 months notice, so even if you were to find a place, it does take some time to get into it.
Okay, pause. Originally, I had planned for this part of the video to be where I bring in a realtor, an expert in Bermuda's real estate market, to come and talk to you guys and let give their opinion on why the market is the way it is, and to give you guys some advice or some tips on how you can maximize your ability to find the place that you're looking for. And also give you a contact. If you were looking for a realtor, see you on here, give them a free plug, whatever. And I contacted several realtors. They had all thought it was a great idea. They wanted to come on and be part of the video, but they all ghosted me for some reason. I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's me. We're just going to move on. And what I did do was reach out to the famous Bermuda house hunting or apartment hunting Facebook group, and I asked the question. I asked, what advice would you give someone, local or otherwise, that's having trouble finding a place? I thought we'd get some good answers out of here. So let's see what the replies are. Danielle says that word of mouth seems to be the best way to find things. I was told for a 2-bedroom place, they would rather have 2 single professionals instead of a family of 4 staying there. It's really disheartening. I hope you find, well, I'm not looking for anything, but I get what you're saying. Good references from former landlords is a plus. Marry a foreigner and let them sign and meet the landlord. That's actually not a bad idea. I don't know if you're gonna marry him, but it's not a bad idea. For anyone desperate to find a place, I'd say the grapevine is likely the best for successful results. That's assuming one's financial resources and good character can be sufficiently evidenced. Notably, rentals adjoining landlords' personal living spaces will be subject to greater scrutiny for obvious reasons. So it's best to be prepared to go above and beyond to answer questions. That's a great response. And then Patrick says at the end here to be realistic. Basically, man, it's a dog-eat-dog world here right now. And you really do, especially what people are saying about using existing connections. So if someone's bringing you on the island, if you have a job that's bringing you on, you got a work permit, you're coming, make sure they help you. Like, ask them. If they're not offering you assistance finding a place, ask them. And really push the issue, because I've seen plenty of people come here, they got 1 month free in a hotel or something, or in some accommodation, and then they just get kicked out. And it's like, fend for yourself, find something. It's ridiculous, and a lot of people don't realize that happens. I mean, if you're local, then really lean on your contacts, lean on your family and your friends. Try to find something, because a lot of these landlords are not advertising their places anymore. It doesn't help to advertise it and have 30, 40, 50 applicants that you have to sift through. No, you just get someone that comes through a recommendation from a friend and that they can vouch for, and then you put them in there, and you feel a lot more secure with your investment. So anyway, I hope this video was useful to somebody. Maybe we'll do another one, and we'll try to get those realtors in and get some expert analysis on this, because it's a big topic, and this was just a quick video. Hope everything's going well. Good luck out there, and I'll see you in the next video.